What's more important to you, the lyrics or the music?
Oh, a whole lot for me.
Combination. I think the lyrics used to be more important for me. And then I realised that I was making music and not writing a book. So I think the feeling, doesn't it? And the feeling, I think, really more comes from sound than words.
Yeah. That's it actually, more like, feeling versus literary.
But it is a combination, definitely, because I like language. I mean, to sort of play with language.
Yeah, I mean, I only kind of realised quite recently that some people don't even listen to lyrics, and that sort of blew my mind, blew my head off. I couldn't really believe it. Like, a few people, mostly guys I have to say, said, oh, I don't really notice the lyrics. And then I was like, okay, I'll just write anything.
Is there an element of comedy in your songs?
Yes.
Well, they're not. Yeah. Well, humour. I don't like comedy.
Yeah.
Because comedy just sounds like Flight of the Conchords or something. Like that.
Yeah, they're not ironic, but I mean, obviously, yeah, exactly. There's some of them. I mean, like, we're in the music biz. I mean, obviously, that's written. It's quite funny, but it's not ironic. It's.
And I need
humorous.
a friend. Like, it kind of goes, I need a friend, or something until I get a new one, or something like that. I'll be your friend until I get a new one. Stuff like that. Just silly things.
Yeah.
And did recording in Berlin influence the We're in Music Biz album? Did that kind of have an effect?
It did. Well, it's got I Live in Berlin on it for a start. But, yeah, it was really good recording there. We went to the sauna a lot and then got really tired and couldn't do any work because we'd sort of get into a kind of really too warm condition.
Yeah, I think some of the songs on there are kind of like what you'd think were like kind of dark and heavy, Germanic sort of vibe, like the Tears. And and I Live in Berlin, I'm Hit's a bit like that as well.
It was really cold, wasn't it, when we were writing, when we were recording at least?
Yeah, it was sort of January,
really cold.
Like, a few years ago in January, so
And
it was quite electronic as well.
did the club scene in Berlin really influence that record quite a lot? No?
Not really. Only the sauna.
Sauna scene.
The sauna scene, yeah.
It sounds well.
It does, doesn't it?
And how do you kind of decide to switch between, you've got like a dance element to what you do, and an electronic element, but you've also got like a really kind of organic, sort of punk energy kind of guitar based thing as well. And sometimes seems to this listener that you kind of switch between both. Sometimes they merge together, but sometimes they're distinct. And how do you what makes a song go one way or the other way? If I'm reading it right, it might not be.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that's down to the production on particular songs as well. But I mean, some of them just do lend themselves more naturally to something more kind of.
But not
dancey.
really, because we kind of write everything and then we take it to the producer and then we say we want it like this.
Yeah.
And basically, I suppose kind of songs that start with riffs like I'm Hit, that then kind of like, I suppose it's more simple and then becomes easier to turn into dance music. Whereas some of the other songs like Girl, where there's a lot of rhythm, guitar, and you keep that on there, it stays quite rocky. So I suppose it is kind of dependent on the parts you write, and definitely that then directs the vibe.
Uh-huh. And do you think there's a perfect length for a pop song?
3 minutes-ish. That's quite vague. 3.5,
I don't know. I've never really looked at the length of stuff.
It wasn't in that book.
It was.
Yeah, it probably was, wasn't it?
I reckon about 3 minutes.
And that book
maybe a
that
bit
you were
more.
reading that the KLF wrote, what was
yeah.
that all about? The kind of writing
about having
perfect
a
pop
number one or
song.
something. Yeah. But I didn't get very far into that book.
I'm really obsessed with that Tom Beck song at the moment, The Chore, and I think that's kind of like almost like a perfect pop song.
Have your best songs been written quickly, or have they taken a long time to put together?
They all sort of have taken a long time to put together, really. Yeah.
Not the writing.
Well, maybe not the initial idea, but finishing any song to sort of, releasable quality. But yeah, the writing. But even that, I mean, yeah, not the initial bit of it, but finishing it has mostly taken a long time.
I disagree with that. I think kind of like we've written songs and I think, the songs that have been easiest have just like come to us. I think if we've laboured over stuff, it hasn't worked. So I think we have kind of written a lot of songs that have just come fast, but they just took ages to produce because we can't do production or that level of production.
But there's always the second verse or the third verse that they're labouring over.
Yeah, lyrically, that slows stuff down.
And is there a point where you get to, like, this one's going to be a goer, or it's not going to be something that you're going to use? Is there, like, do you get to that point quite quickly, or?
Not always. I mean, like, for example, Sink in the Dirt, that was a real problem on this album. Like, we kept changing stuff about it and going back to it and doing it again. And I mean, in the end, I'm really happy with the song, but we were going to ditch it at one point. But then that was the only one, really, wasn't it, that was a real problem that we had to keep going back to.
That was on the album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where we were kind of re-recording it with different lyrics, and then the producer said, well, the way you've sung this isn't as good as how you originally sang it. And I just thought, well, I can't do this again. It's not, it's gone. Because we kind of basically, this was kind of the start of this year, and basically we'd recorded the original vocals like in 2009, and I was like, that moment's gone, so it
just went 2 years ago.
Some stuff you just can't recreate, and you just don't want to, because it's just, I don't know, you just can't be honest. You move on, don't you?
And have you had like a favourite live experience, performance of, what was your favourite, where it all went right or didn't go right, but it just was, it was really good?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of gigs. Yeah, Warsaw last December was just really mental, because it was like quite a small stage in this really like like a Berlin club, really like sort of like a warehousey type underground thing. But everyone was really close to us, and then the sort of all the stage was sort of collapsing onto them and stuff. It was a bit of a free for all. So the energy, I think the energy thing is like, for me, is like crucial. Like if it all starts going a bit wrong, and that's what I like, especially since I've been playing with a backing track for years. I always feel a bit like, that's quite predictable. So if the energy goes a bit strange, it's like, it's really punk.
Yeah, and like over there as well, people were just pretty crazy and into it, whereas in some places they're more restrained. Like, London, I mean, there's been we've done some really amazing gigs in London though. I mean, the LA2 was one of my favourite ever gigs, even though that was quite a few years ago now. Paris is always pretty much always amazing.
To Paris after we hadn't been there for a few years. This was actually a couple of years ago, and we played a gig, and that was mental. We were really sort of crowd surfing, but it was just it was like a really insane energy again, and they were like, "Yeah, you're back," and that was really cool.
It's good when we get a good crowd surf going that goes on for ages. The recent one in the south of France was quite
we
good.
played Toulon this festival called Rockorama, and it was amazing because the gig was like on a little stage in front of the sea, and just before we went on stage, a sort of ship came past all lit up. I was like, yeah, that's good.
And the crowd surfing was good on that, because there wasn't there was a lot of people there, but they were quite widely spaced, but they sort of seemed to just pass us around for ages, really far back, and then
apart from I got back on stage and all my whole outfit was like that, open, and I was like, oh shit.